Welcome and thank you for joining. This interview is part of a research article titled Ethical Risk of Generative AI in Education by Or Daniel and the advisor Dr. Rinat Rosenberg-Kima from the Technion Israel Institute of Technology. The availability of the interview along with the scientific article can benefit both the scientific and education communities. The interview content was not edited, only noise and pauses were removed. We thank all subject matter experts for contributing their knowledge and experience to this study. A link to the article and ways to contact us will be added to the information of this interview. Interview number 14 with William Carbone, held on January 5th, 2024, in English. Enjoy. So thank you again. I really appreciate it. Can you please mention your full name and what is your professional background and experience?
Hello, I'm William Carbone, and I'm currently the program director of a master in AI in Rome Business School. But also, I've been involved in several projects in AI when I was at IBM. I've 10 years immersed in the worlds of AI, aerospace, and quantum computing. And I'm an entrepreneur for 7+ years, going around the world and shaping innovation ecosystems. I love to propel startups forward and transforming tech expertise into catalyst for progress. Basically, I worked, in high tech, and I'm currently an entrepreneur in the world of AI, venture capital, and intellectual property. I'm running a company in Finland and in the States.
And you never sleep. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, I try to sleep faster.
So, William, in your view, what are the potential benefits or advantages of using generative AI technologies in education?
Great. I think generative AI can, in education, right, can optimize the curriculum design based on individual student needs. It can foster a more tailored learning experience. And I think it can also facilitate an adaptive learning path. So it can improve comprehension and retention. So if you look at some of those, you have, like, in the personalized learning, you can create adaptive learning platforms that can tailor the educational content to individual students. If you want to enhance the engagement, I see that a lot. So if you have an AI-driven educational tools, you can design them to be interactive and engaging. So you can, capture student attentions and also maintain their interest in the learning process. I'm not sure if, for example, Quantic School of Technology uses that, but they have a pretty good framework to do that kind of learning. It is more interactive and it's entirely online. And basically, you contribute to a more immersive and enjoyable learning experience. The other advantage I see is that you have a real-time feedback. So, and you have things also a more efficient resource allocation. You can optimize the curriculum of AI. I see a lot, for example, if you can analyze vast amounts of educational data, the AI can identify gaps in existing curriculum, suggest updates, and even recommend the new content. So you can make sure that your educational programs stay relevant, especially now in the fast-pacing time of AI. Last but not least, I think you have also the accessibility and inclusivity. Basically, if you use AI technology, you can leverage them to enhance accessibility for diverse learners. And you have features like text-to-speech, language translation, adaptive interfaces. And so generative AI makes educational content more accessible to students, which have, students have different learning abilities and linguistic backgrounds. So I would say it helps promoting inclusivity in education.
That's great. So we understand the benefits. What about the risk, right? So what do you see as the main risk, challenges, or ethical concern associated with educational uses of generative AI in education?
Yeah, that's a great one. We speak about that a lot. So we have to me, like the risks involve potential biases in algorithms that can affect the educational outcomes. And there is also challenges in securing sensitive student data, and also ethical concerns about the fairness of AI-driven evaluations and decisions in education. And there are sub points to all those. So for example, the algorithm bias, you could have AI systems, generative AI systems that heavily depend on algorithms that are trained on large data sets. And if data sets already contain the biases, then gender, racial, socioeconomic biases, then these AI algorithms can perpetuate is like these error biases in educational settings, which is what we don't want, of course. And for example, if historical data used to train an AI system reflects existing societal prejudice, then the system might inadvertently reinforce discriminatory practices in educational recommendations, evaluations, and also, of course, resource allocation. And then you might have also a differential impact on marginalized groups. You have a lack of transparency. With that, is sort of they sit in black boxes. You don't have much explainability, and then cultural and contextual sensitivity. The system may struggle to adapt to cultural nuances and diverse contextual factors in educational settings. And then there will be, as we're talking about the bias, reinforcement of stereotypes. And I was thinking, like, what could be the points that institutions could do to mitigate those risks? You will have a more diverse and representative training data, more algorithm transparency. You could run regular audits and bias assessments in your organization. You could have more stakeholder involvement and more fixed ethical guidelines. So you could prioritize fairness, equity, and inclusivity, and also guiding the responsible use of AI and technologies in educational settings.
So you started actually answering the next question, but I will ask it, and maybe you can elaborate about it. So, what recommendation would you have for policymakers regarding regulating or providing guidance on generative AI in education?
Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
Big responsibility, right? So to me, I can answer this quick. Like they should prioritize the development of comprehensive regulations, ensuring transparency, fairness, and privacy in AI applications with education. So I would say that the regular audits and collaboration with how do you call them, ethicists, so people who are in charge
Yeah.
with
AI
education
ethics.
ethics.
Yeah.
So we'll have regular audits with ethicists. Yeah. I hope that's spelled correctly. And educators and technologists, I think, are vital. So I have this kind of regular audits and collaboration. So these people are part of the game, not just
So
professors.
another level of this kind of suggestions would be for educators. So what suggestions would you have for educators or administrators in education that is looking to integrate generative AI into a curriculum or in the institution itself?
Yeah, well, that's a good one. So educators and administrators should invest in programs to understand AI technologies that actually would then emphasize the importance of the human oversight. Why I say that? Because if you establish clear data, privacy policies, and fostering a sort of interdisciplinary collaboration, this can help integrate AI responsibly.
So I'll continue to the next one. So in your opinion, under what circumstances is the use of generative AI in educational setting is appropriate and ethically acceptable, and when would it be inappropriate or unethical?
There is always a gray area there, even depending on the geographies. If we look at China, or say Asia, larger Asia area, and then Western Europe or the US, I would say the usage of generative AI will be ethically acceptable when it's aligned, in the case of education, with pedagogical goals that would then enhance rather than replace the human interaction. So you have basically problems with things that are not appropriate. Those things arise when it perpetuates discriminations, as we were saying before. It will infringe on the privacy, or it will compromise the whole educational experience.
Great answer. So another question. In your opinion, how should educators and policymakers assess the risk associated with generative AI? And it's a bit different question from what I asked before, because they need to, maybe educators, and we want to believe, right, that educators and policymakers need to assess the risk before they use it in education. So how would you suggest them to do that?
And by the way, that's a general problem of AI, right? How do we do it beyond the European Union level? So I would keep doing like impact assessments, even though those things take a lot of time. They would also be able to prevent or predict potential biases when these things are designed, and privacy implications, which are not trivial, and even societal consequences. So I would say, if you have in place continuous monitoring, more transparency, and then an open dialogue with stakeholders, this will be vital in case you want to mitigate risks. So basically, these three things are vital for mitigating the risks to me.
Okay. So the last question. So any other perspectives you would like to share regarding the ethics of generative AI in education, or something that I should ask and didn't?
Yeah, well, it's more an open-ended question, but I think I believe that beyond all these regulations, right, because we are humans and technology is so fast, we sometimes realize mistakes way after they happened, or data breach stuff, like 2 years later. I believe that the ethical discourse should include discussions on the societal impact of AI in education. This is also because the students become then workers. They are professional. They have a professional life later on. So it's like kind of a cradle for life, and it can impact generations. So if you think that even the educational system will be influenced in a way by AI, it's definitely a big thing. It's not a trivial thing. And I would say that emphasizing the ethical responsibility of AI developers and educators, let's say, to prioritize equity, diversity, and inclusion, it's quite vital or essential for a holistic approach to AI ethics in education.
That's great, William. Thank you. Thank you very much. Last and logistic question, actually, if you approve that this interview will be accessible to anyone who would like, of course, with the article itself, audio form.
Yeah, sure. With pleasure.
Thank you very much.